All right, we are live here from the studio. No, I'm just kidding. Hello, my dear.
Hello, Colleen.
All right, so I loved your story, Born to be an Empath, exclamation point, exclamation point, exclamation point. It was packed with such a punch of just wow. And so I'm excited that I get to talk to you about this today, because sometimes I can do an interview and really just be in my head. And sometimes I can do an interview and really be in my heart space, where I really connect with what I'm reading, and or I'm just in a different space where what I'm reading I really need to hear. And so as I was going through your story today, that's kind of how I connected with it. So before we get into it though, I have a question. And my question for you is, what is a spiritual evolution?
A spiritual evolution. You know, it's actually something that I have been learning and working on. And so I just started learning about, I would say, the spiritual world in a different sense than what organized religion has been for me. And so it's opened me up to just all kinds of different possibilities. And so I believe that spiritual evolution is just continuing to learn, to get in touch with the universe and the spirits and angels, things that are out there. I just started learning how to read the signs, how to communicate. There's so much more out there. There's such a bigger world than what our little brains can even comprehend right now. And I just know that I'm evolving, I'm learning. And, you know, I was so closed off before to what was out there. And so I just believe that I'm evolving. We can all evolve and learn that there's more out there. There's more of that spiritual energy. It's there for us. And I think that if we just allow ourselves to open up, feel it, and understand it, we're going to just keep evolving. You know, it's like technology gets better all the time. Okay, so if we're going to keep tapping into the spiritual world and learning about it, we're going to learn more, and we're going to grow, and we're going to find out more and be able to do more with it.
Yeah. You know, I think that what I love about all of our stories is that it is such a depiction of a time in our lives where we are evolving. And yet we're always evolving, we're always moving, nothing is static. And so I wanted to begin your story talking about the idea of crossroads, and how that part of an evolution, part of a spiritual evolution, there's always like at the end of every story, there's a beginning of another story. And so that's such a wonky phase where we don't know, like, what am I supposed to do, or where am I supposed to be? Like we get to this crossroads, and it sounds like that's where you entered, where you began sharing your story was at the beginning of a crossroads for you. And so I want to start off just reading a part of the beginning of your story where that crossroads began, and then just talk about why that was such an important beginning. You know, you start off saying, what is an empath? And that's a question that you cautiously asked an internationally renowned intuitive medium, Susan Grau. Is that Grau? Okay. And you talked about you went to see her for a reading, and you said, I was at a crossroads seeking knowledge of the spiritual world and wondering how it fit into my life presently. So let's just talk about that. Let's talk about crossroads and what that meant for you.
Well, I had gone through the time where, you know, I was raised Catholic, and I always believed in God, and I felt like I was very connected growing up. But then my grandma died, and she was such a such a spiritual being. I mean, church and God and Jesus and heaven were her everything. And she would always tell us, you know, I want to go there. I want to go there. I want to be up there. And she had always told the story about seeing an angel when she was young. And my grandma wasn't someone to make up stories or lie. And I had to believe her that she saw an angel, and she described it beautifully. And so I always felt connected, and I know she was very well connected. But when she died, I sort of lost all the feeling, all the energy. I was expecting her to come and connect with me immediately, and I just felt nothing. And I got very, very upset and depressed when I lost her. And I just felt like there was no God, there was no heaven, there was no anything. We just turned to dust. And I really lost every type of spiritual connection I had. And so when I started to gain that back after I went to see Bill Phillips, and I was thinking that it was all nonsense and that we really couldn't connect. But then when I discovered that it had to be real, there was a connection, and I started feeling it again, I needed more. I needed to understand what heaven was and where we went after we died. And it just became something for me that I needed to know more, and I needed to understand it so that I could be okay in my life, knowing that there was still that connection on the other side, that we didn't lose the people that we love, that they were still with us. And so then I wanted to take classes so that I could understand how to connect with the ones we had lost. But I was having a hard time finding the classes. And then I went to Susan, not knowing she actually had classes, and I got to begin with her and start on the spiritual path.
So, you know, every evolution, every spiritual journey, and we have so many of them. This is one that, you know, it sounds like death was your teacher. Death was teaching you. Death is what got you to a crossroads, because you were on one road and then you lost your grandmother, and that loss was so great that her death became your teacher. Would you say that's kind of how that evolution began?
Absolutely. And she always wanted me to be, it was funny. She would give me a hard time because as I grew up, I decided not to go to the Catholic Church anymore. And when I'd go to visit her, she'd always say, "So, have you found a church yet? Where are you going?" You know, and would always tease me about it and ask me where I was going. And I'm just like, "Oh, Grandma, I haven't found one that I, you know, really resonate with yet." And, you know, she'd just kind of smile and wink at me. And she was really just such a beautiful, kind, spiritually driven woman that it was my inspiration for really wanted to connect to the other side where she felt so comfortable.
I love that. That is so beautiful.
She definitely had some gifts herself too.
You resonated with her gifts. It's like maybe you had the same ones. So you talked about in the beginning how Susan was the one that told you you were an empath. And you said, before my encounter with the lovely and talented Susan Graw, I had never heard of the word empath before. I had absolutely no idea what it meant. I honestly felt a little foolish letting her know the word empath was not in my vocabulary. So you talk about that, and you say, well, first I want to just talk about the power of knowledge and how it's just so, this is what I love about evolution and following someone's evolution, because you could see like something very impactful happen in your life, a death of someone you love so much. And then you were brought onto this crossroads. And then suddenly, isn't it amazing how people do appear? And so here's Susan, and she's giving you this knowledge about being an empath, which is completely going to take you down this road that you're asking to go on, you know?
But you know what that did for me, more than even taking me down the spiritual road, is it turned that negative talk of being highly sensitive as a child and always being ridiculed for being too sensitive. It was such a negative term. You're too sensitive, stop crying, get over it, you know, you're too emotional, all of those feelings that an empath has. And it was turned into such a negative when she told me I was an empath and I read about all the qualities, and that yes, you're a highly sensitive person, you're very emotional, you can pick up on others' energies, and that is why you have the feelings that you do. That sensitivity became such a positive thing in my life. So I was able to turn that around into just being something positive.
That's what I loved about what you said. No longer did I feel like the weird girl for being uncomfortable in crowds, easily overwhelmed, distressed by loud noise, overly sensitive, or desperate for quiet alone time. I even stopped feeling odd and embarrassed about sharing the fact that I was feeling the presence of familiar energies around me. After meeting Susan, I began to understand what my gift was all about. No, I was not a weirdo or a freak. I was not a crazy girl who heard voices in my head telling me to do strange things. I was not a liar or a fake. I was an empath. Dang it. You didn't say that, but that was my interjection. And I was proud to be such a thing. You know, I loved when I read that, and because I felt like, yes, you know, before we come into this world, we are these incredible beings. And then we get here and there are so many labels that we have to, you know, we get to a certain point and we have to take these labels off and really defining for ourselves who we are. So talk about how that, you know, realization of I'm not the weird girl, and how you really stepped into your power. That was your moment of empowerment, right?
Yes, definitely. Well, you know, you have so many insecurities, and like you said, labels and people putting things on you, and just not acknowledging what I was, you know, not living my true self, just feeling like, okay, if they said I'm too sensitive, then I am too sensitive, and that's a bad thing. And I should stop crying, and I should stop having these feelings that I'm feeling because it's bad. You know, and so you start to take that in. But then when you realize that, oh no, these are qualities of being an empath, and this is actually a good thing. And you have these gifts that maybe other people don't have or understand, but it's okay because they're who you are. And they're actually, when you look at it, as gifts that you were given, and that, you know, other people may not be able to do this, understand this, because they don't have that same gift. It's like, even with sports, someone may not know how to play soccer. And so they're going to look at that as foreign. Well, how do you do that? I don't know how to, you know, kick that ball in the goal, which is probably not most people can kick. But I mean,
no, I get it though. Yeah. It's just,
or like a foreign language, learning a foreign language.
Right.
Oh my gosh, certain math equations that to other people it's foreign. They don't understand it. They can't comprehend it. So you look at it that way. Well, they might not be able to comprehend what I'm seeing, hearing, feeling, doing, but I know inside of me that it's a good thing. It's a spiritual thing. And now, yes, it brings me power. I'm not going to look at it as a negative anymore. And being different from people, we're all different. We all have different talents, and we have unique things about us. Well, I have to take those things about me now and use them for good, and use them for positive, rather than being hard on myself and being insecure and negative. So it was very empowering to find out what an empath was and go, oh my gosh, yes, that's all the qualities I have that I've mostly been made fun of a lot of my life. but now I can take it and go, I'm an adult. And you know what? This is who I am. I love it. It's fantastic. I love learning about these things. It's doing really good, positive things for me. And the people who want to judge that or look at it in a negative sense, I don't need to be around them anymore. I'm an adult. Right. I can make my choices, and I can say, okay, that's fine. If you want to look at that in a negative view, I don't need to surround myself with that anymore.
Yes.
I'm trying to live my best self.
Yep. That's very powerful. And I think what is, I think I wrote this down, no longer disowning ourselves. And so, there's a time in life, it seems like, that our gifts and who we are, that we disown, especially if we feel that the world also disowns that part of us. You need to stop being this way and stop being that way. And then you realize, well, it's who I am. And the pain that comes from disowning yourself, and then the empowerment that comes from owning yourself, really. I'm owning it. I'm owning me. I'm owning my story. And then you go through this, this weave that we're talking about, or maybe you walk through the forest of your life, this journey where then it's like you're gaining knowledge, then you get empowered, and then you come to religion. And religion was another stopgap, another like, how does this, and so talk about like when you entered that phase of your journey where religion really sort of made you wrestle with just the self-doubt of, what about where I came from and what does this mean?
So this part of me was really difficult because I was hiding. I was staying in that closet, and I didn't
hiding the fact that you were an empath.
Well, empath is very much a spiritual term. Mm-hmm. And when you talk about being an empath, you have abilities to connect with spirits and people on the other side who have passed away. That's part of it. Mm-hmm. And that, to a lot of people in certain religions, is deemed as evil. They don't understand it. They don't believe that that is something that a human would be able to do. And that's what organized religion has told people. Mm-hmm. And growing up Catholic, we weren't allowed to talk to people who have died. Mm-hmm. We talked to Jesus, we talked to God. And there's still a lot of people in the religions that believe that is just, it's an evil thing. Right. And there is nothing dark or evil about me. Like right. I said, I'm so afraid to watch scary movies. I can't look or see anything scary in the slightest. Yeah. There's no darkness within me. And if I was experiencing anything dark or scary, I would run, and I would mm-hmm. put myself in a insane asylum. I couldn't handle that. Everything's been so light and bright. It feels mm-hmm. angelic and beautiful and wonderful. Like I would mm-hmm. think God in heaven would be. So coming out of the Catholic religion, my family is still very Catholic. They go to church every Sunday, as we did growing up. I was going to these classes with Susan, and I was learning how to communicate with loved ones on the other side. And I was not telling my family what I was doing. I was taking classes, and I was just, if I had to explain going to a class, it was like, well, I'm learning, energy work, Reiki. I used to do massage therapy. And so everybody understands that I would be taking classes and doing massage and learning more energy techniques and things like that, which is all part of it. But I was also learning how to communicate. I couldn't tell my family for, I think, a couple of years. I opened mm-hmm. up to my mom, and I thought my mom would really be understanding because she saw my grandma have this type mm-hmm. of gift. And I know that my mom has experienced things as well that she wasn't really telling people. Mm-hmm. So it does kind of go down in the line of the family. I didn't tell my dad. He's going to find out one day, but I wasn't comfortable letting him know. And I did finally open up to my sister, who was, I was scared to tell her. But she was very supportive.
What was your biggest fear?
That they would think I was weird, that they would think I was crazy, that they wouldn't believe me. And, they did. Once I started talking about those experiences and what was going on, they know who I am. They know I'm not a liar. They know I'm not a con artist. They know I don't make things up. And I know there are mediums out there who are con artists and try to just get money from people. And there's a big difference between people who are very spiritually connected and people who are learning a certain type of game to fool people. And that's where people really have to come in and decipher what the truth is. And they have to know the person and see the authenticity within them. That's huge.
That is huge. And honestly, I've never known anyone authentically, like as a friend. And then, oh, by the way, because you see how psychic mediums on TV, it's very commercialized, it's very dramatized, it's who believes that it's a thing. But I think there are a lot of people.
I don't mean to cut you off, but
no, tell me.
I worked in different areas within Hollywood for a while. I saw how production was made. And a lot of times what we see on TV, they do take the mediums and some of it is absolutely real. I won't deny that some of it is definitely real. They do dramatize it. They do actually go back and refilm certain things and ask them to do stuff. And so that is hard for people to believe that it's true because it's, taken to another level in Hollywood that isn't always as authentic as it should be.
Yeah. And honestly, knowing you and having you share your experiences with me has given me so much insight into that world that, I don't know, there's this spirit that lives in us and that we refer to God, the universe, spirit guides, whatever. We have lots of names for this thing that's an incredible entity out, beyond the flesh. And what I know now is that there are so many ways that it pursues us and tries to get our attention in such simple, non-show-offy kind of ways. And just maybe it's a quiet whisper, maybe it's just, a download, an intuitive hit. It can be lots of things, but I think that once something gets dramatized on TV, it loses that credibility. And you've been such, you for me have given credibility to this component of life that many people claim to have, that connection to the other side, but you don't really know their stories. You don't hear their stories. So I think your story is so powerful because you are the most authentic person that I've known who can talk about it in a way that makes sense to me. The other thing that I want to just jump over to the idea of being an empath, because I think that these, like you said, an empath is a spiritual path. And that's something that, maybe we make it more a psychology driven gift as opposed to a spiritually driven gift. And I like that you put it like that, because I think that that's true, that the true nature of an empath is someone who is you have to be sensitive like that to pick up on these other messages. I'm not sure even what we would call it, but in your story, you say, as an empath, you have to take the good with the bad. I want to talk about the good with the bad for a minute. There are definitely things that can be tough to navigate. Sometimes I feel like I take on the weight of the world after absorbing other people's energy. This isn't something purposeful. It's just part of being an empath. The energy you feel merely being in the same vicinity of others can be overstimulating, overwhelming, stressful, and leave you prone to exhaustion or fatigue. This is why I feel a necessity for naps quite often. Again, I can totally relate to this, but talk about your sensitivity, like absorbing.
Oh gosh, I can walk into a room, and if the people are in a down mood, I feel it. It's like an illness coming over you. You know, some people don't feel energy, and so again, it's one of those things like a math equation that's hard to explain, but you know, I feel it. I feel it like it's a cloud hitting me, and it can take me down if they're in bad moods. If they're super happy and uplifting, I'll get really hyper. I mean, I will just jump around and get energized. I just feel that energy within other people. And so it can stimulate me and bring me up, and I can just get really happy. And I do have a tendency to get hyper and goofy and funny and all that good stuff. But it's feeding off of other people. And I feel it, I take it in. But if somebody's sad and crying, telling me their story, I don't have to go through what they did, but oh my gosh, it hits me in my heart like it's happening to me. And I can, you know, I start to cry with them. I don't want to, but I just feel it so strongly. If I'm at a concert, it's really difficult for me. My husband loves live music, and I try to go there with him, but there's so much energy at a live concert. It's loud, and I have just a really hard time. I get very overwhelmed, very stressed out. And while I enjoy the music, it's very tough for me because there's thousands of people and all that energy. And so I have a hard time, but I try to work through it because those things are fun and they're important. But I'm very sensitive. So the way I work is that I feel. So I don't know, I'm not clairvoyant where I see images. I can in my mind, but not in front of me. It's like I see a person or a ghost in front of me. Some people see that. Mine is all feeling. I feel energy so strongly. And so I think that I just really take that on.
Talk about boundaries, because so setting boundaries, that's hard for people. Number one, I love your story because it's also knowledge. Knowledge is power. When you have the knowledge that this is how I was created, then that means I'm going to have to set some really strong boundaries and risk being misunderstood. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah. So as I've grown up into an adult, I've gotten to, you know, choose who I spend my time with and who I'm around. And I do have a hard time going to parties where there's a lot of people. And I'll go because you definitely need to be social. You've got to incorporate that. That's been hard for me. It's been tough for my son too, because he's an empath, and being around a lot of people is hard because you do take on that energy. But I go to the parties and I find one or two people that I can connect with, and I'll sit down in a corner and talk to them for a while. Also, as an adult, if there's people who aren't treating me kindly and they're judging me, who I am, what I do, I know I'm a really good person. I know I have good intentions. And if they don't see me for who I am and they judge me in the spiritual world or whatever it is now as something negative, then I'm going to put up a boundary and I have to block them. I have to block them from being around me, from bringing me down, hurting me, because I will hurt so deeply over that. And I just have to put up that block so that I don't take in that negative energy. And I've had to say goodbye to some friends people I've grown up with or known for a while, I've had to block them. I'll still be kind to them, but I'll have to block them from my life and people that I may get together with and share time with.
I think that's really powerful. I think that's so important. You know, the way that I think about it is this world is full of billions and trillions of people. And we've got one trajectory, life, then death, and everything that happens in the middle. So being very choosy about, especially as an empath, who you are around, knowing that your energy can be drained immediately by surrounding yourself with the wrong person. Yeah, you have to be strong and you have to set boundaries. And I think that's really a powerful example of a way to protect your energy. One of the things that I love that was like such a gold nugget in your story was when you said it's no wonder empaths are drawn to animals. They are typically quiet creatures that you can bond with in an energetic way that's usually more healing than draining. Wow, what a powerful statement. And it's so true. You said, my friends and family have always teased me about this. As a child, I brought home just about every kind of pet my parents would allow. You know, just the gold nugget of animals and how they're more healing than draining. Wow. Can you describe for someone who is an empath, but maybe they're not a big animal person, like what are they missing out on?
Well, you know what? I'm sure that to some people, animals can be draining because they don't have that feeling and sensitivity that I do.
Right.
But just especially, you know, I've started a cat rescue now. And I did not like cats growing up because I was so allergic to them. So I didn't want to be anywhere near cats. I hated them. Just get them away from me. I'd walk in someone's house and see a cat and I wanted to run. And then I just got used to them. I built up my immunity. And I have found out that cats themselves are so intuitive. Watch how they look around a room and pick up on things. I know that they're seeing energy. Wow. But they, you know, look at how animals communicate. They don't speak, they're telepathic communicators. And so if you look at the energy behind that, just in their own communication and how they look at you, you know, pet your dog, play with your dog, your cat, your bird, whatever. Look at their eyes, you know, look into their hearts and their souls. They have so much unconditional love. You know, they don't judge. They don't, like women judge each other so badly. You know, oh, look at what she's wearing. Look at that makeup she has on, you know, stupid things like that, where animals just look at you and just think, I love you. Pet me, give me food. I will love you forever. They don't have the judgment. Animals are such sweet beings. Yeah. And, you know, just being around your pets and giving them love and attention, look at what you get back tenfold from them. You know, they're just, they've done studies. You know, I was looking into equine therapy for a while. Horses are ones that have some of the best energy and can pick up on humans' energy easier than other animals.
It's so true. Oh,
yeah, I've done a lot of studies with that, and it's just incredible. So they just,
I think that's a gold nugget of information. I love that you shared that, because
I get myself into trouble with animals though. I would bring so
you need a farm.
You have to stop. You have to say, no, I can't take it anymore, because we have to be realistic in life and what we can, you know, afford and take our own homes. But oh God, I just love the animals.
Well, let's switch the topic now to children, because, you know, as a mother, you talk about being a mother of empaths. You have empathic children. Talk about what kinds of gifts and challenges come along with that. That really struck me, what you talk about with the kids.
It's something that I really feel called to. working with parents of kids who are empaths. I don't think a lot of people know how to deal with this yet. And we can look at it in a psychological way where they look at highly sensitive children. But there's that other element to it. Okay, so your child isn't just highly sensitive, where you have to be very careful with what you say, how you approach them. I mean, I was being told, tough love, tough love. You got to be tough on them. And then when I kind of really looked into everything about an empath and very highly sensitive child, that's the wrong way to go about it. You know, you are not supposed to be overly tough. You're supposed to be empathetic, where you have the word empath. It's empathy, empathetic, listening, understanding. I think that my husband and I used to make our son worse when he would get upset and we would try to be tough. We could throw him into really bad meltdowns because we weren't listening and understanding and working with him the way he needed to be worked with. So things would escalate and get really bad. And you talk about parents watching their kids have really bad tantrums and not know how to deal with that. And it's overwhelming. You know, you have to learn to work with them in the way everybody's different. You have different learners. You have the auditory learners and the visual learners and kinesthetic. So this is no different. You have to learn how to work with an empath so that they are the most successful. But yes, my son, very highly sensitive, where I was taking him to all kinds of doctors when he was young, trying to figure out what was wrong. What's wrong with him? Same with me. Why am I weird? Why am I different? So it was like, what's wrong with him? Nothing's wrong with him. He's an empath.
It's a language, you know, it just makes me sad when I hear that, because I think so many people can relate to this. And it's a language, it's an education and a language in our society that is not yet fluid.
No.
You know? And so what you've discovered and what you have to share is so powerful. I can really relate to what you said about your son, because I did the same thing to my son. It was like, you got to be strong, you got to be tough. And he is so sensitive. He's a true empath. And it's.
And we have to start saying, stop saying what's wrong with them and start saying what's right with them.
Yeah.
And finding those qualities that we can really help make them successful. And we're started to do that. And I'm just seeing my son blossom and just become such a neat adult. And we're going to help bring out those talents and qualities that he has to, you know, make him better. But it was very difficult not understanding that at the time and what to do. And so I think if I can talk to parents, teach them early on how to deal with their children this way, it's really going to help them blossom. They won't have to go through as many struggles. You know, there was one thing that I didn't talk about in my story. I might go back and rewrite this. So we were in the hospital. My son was having horrible attacks with breathing and his lungs. We didn't know what was wrong. And the doctors just kept trying to tell us it was just anxiety. And I knew, you know, in my gut, there was more to it. It wasn't just anxiety. So we were going to the ER constantly. And he started to not be able to breathe and he would pass out. And this was happening over and over, where he just couldn't get enough air and would pass out. So we're in the ER room and I'm having him evaluated. And there was a moment where I needed to get a hold of my husband and let him know where we were, what was going on, because I hadn't gotten in touch with him yet. So I told my son, I'm going to leave the room, honey. You're going to be okay. You're taken care of. I'm going to go call Dad, let him know what's going on. So I walked into the hallway, called my husband, told him we were in the ER, what was happening. I walked back in and I saw my son in the hospital bed, tears streaming down his face. And I started panicking and saying, what's wrong? What happened while I was gone? You know, what's the matter? And he had this huge smile. And it was like, what? I thought you were upset. You were crying. He's like, I just saw Grammy. And this was my grandmother that had died, that had caused me
Oh my goodness.
And he said, Grammy, she was standing right there at the end of my bed telling me I was going to be okay.
Wow.
And that was
wow.
where I knew 100% he was an empath, and he
wow.
had this, you know, I knew from all the sensitivities, but when he said that to me, I knew.
Wow.
It was incredible.
That's actually a perfect segue back into what I wanted to talk about, because we kind of zigzagged from when we were talking about your connection to the other side. And I wanted to ask about, or have you talk about 222. Let me just read a little part of your story. You said, I will absolutely be forthcoming in saying that my unique abilities to tap into the spirit world actually frightened me at first. Even Susan Graw continues to tell me how much I've grown, and I'm going to jump down here. It wasn't until I was much older that I really started to recognize the undeniable paranormal experiences I was having. This type of phenomena began the time when my uncle, who was a Catholic priest, passed away. When he was beginning to go through the dying process, I started waking up at exactly 2:22 a.m. Do you want to talk about that and that whole experience? Because this is a huge part of your story, and now you're raising kids with these very same gifts.
So this was my transition in understanding that there was definitely more going on, and that there was this spiritual realm that I could connect to. I didn't believe it prior. I was always trying to push feelings aside when I would feel different energies or feel like there was someone in the room with me, or, you know, as a child, you get that feeling like you're being watched, or there's just something around, but you can't explain it. And so you're always having these feelings and not understanding what they are. And so that became more of a fear. What am I feeling? What's around me? Why am I feeling energy when there's nothing there I can see? That was scary. And even as an adult, when I started first waking up, and I was seeing 22s prior, it just, I don't know, I can't remember exactly when I started seeing all these 22s jumping out at me, but it became a thing that I noticed. And it was like, okay, you're seeing these 22s way too often. There's something going on with them. I don't know how to explain it. But then when I started waking up and the clock was exactly 2:22, it wasn't 2:20, it wasn't 2:19, it wasn't 2:24. I mean, it was sit up, and then I see the 2:22 on the clock. And it was just, yeah, at first I thought, okay, that's a phenomenon that is not in my human realm that I can I know that's a ghost. I know that's something different that's not human. And that scares me because, again, being brought up Catholic, you know, that was just something that was like Ouija board or something. You're not supposed to mess with that. Right. Well, no, I don't mess with Ouija boards. I think there is a dark side that you can bring in if you allow that and you open yourself up to it. I will not open myself up to anything dark. And like I said, if it ever came that way, no, I would shut things down. I don't want any part of that. But I talk to my God. I talk to my angels. I don't allow any of that. But it did make me a little nervous, and I prayed. And I just prayed. I said, okay, it's making me a little nervous. You're kind of scaring me. What's going on? And I said, I don't think I want to see that anymore. Well, then I wouldn't for a few days. But then I would get up, and then boom, there it was. So eventually I just prayed and said, okay, I think you're trying to talk to me. I think you're trying to get a message to me. And I did kind of talk to my uncle in that sense, and, you know, being a priest and everything, of course, I felt like he had a straight line to God. And I said, okay, let's work with this. Just please don't scare me. I don't want to see anything. Don't show me like a ghost or anything that I can see that'll scare me. But I'll try to listen in my head and try to understand your messages or what you want to have me hear. So I really had to talk and pray to get over that fear of waking up at that time. And then once I got through that, I started to enjoy it. It was, when I didn't get woken up, it was like, hey, you haven't woken me up in a while.
Right.
Where are you? What's going on? Tell me something. It got to be kind of fun.
Yeah. And you're not alone. You realize you're not alone in this world, in this universe. To the degree that we're willing to tap into it, it's there, right?
And you know what? And I always wanted to deny it too, and be like, oh, I'm just, it's coincidence. I'm waking up at that time. And you try to push it back and deny and say, that's not really happening. Because as humans, we aren't used to those things happening. It is a phenomenon where we're just like, this isn't normal. But, you have to also realize that I don't know that my brain is capable of waking me up at certain times, right when it's 2:22, at special moments, special days, special activities, things that are happening in my life where I know that it has to be a message.
Right.
Just don't think my brain is capable of that. And I get sort of a push, an energetic shove that I feel. And it's like you snap out of your sleep and wake up and there it is. And I never take it. If the clock isn't exactly 2:22, I don't take anything else as a sign. I don't sit there at 2:20 and wait for it to turn 2:22 and go, oh, okay, there it is. There's my message.
Right.
I don't do it that way.
It's just automatically you wake up at 2:22, boom. So I want to talk about purpose, because there's a paragraph that really gave me goosebumps when I read it. It was toward the end of your story where you said, while being an empath certainly has its challenges, the extraordinary abilities that come with it are worth their weight in gold. Having such incredible senses allow you to see and feel all the beauty in nature, helps you to be vulnerable but strong, grants you the ability to make positive mind shifts, and lets you love deeply and effortlessly. We are kind, caring, and compassionate people. We are intuitive and powerful. We can be amazing leaders, teachers, and healers when positively charged. We are soldiers for the spirit world who thrive on doing good things. There are so many glorious and wonderful traits of an empath. Knowing how to embrace that part of who you are is a special gift in and of itself. It can truly set you free. I love this. There's so much about this that I love. So first, can you talk about the dichotomy of it, being vulnerable but strong? Having such incredible senses allows you to see and feel all the beauty in nature. I mean, there's so much that you put in here. It really packed a punch.
So I love how you say packed a punch because it reminds me of just my first dealings with being vulnerable. And that was when I wrote my first book called Boxing the Blues Away. And that was my first experience with opening up and being vulnerable. I have always been so afraid to let people know that I've struggled. So many people, we live in our egos. And it's just like, I just want to be cool. Right. I want to be cool. I want people to like me. I want them to think that I'm cool and I'm not a geek or a nerd or whatever, which I think nerds are awesome. I love
Yes,
nerds.
I do too.
Fantastic. But no, it's like you have to have this ego and believe that you're cool somehow. Right. And that's just stupid. I'm sorry. Yep. I have now been living out of my ego for a while, and I'm becoming stronger, not having that ego and trying to live up to other people's impressions of me or who I should be. I'm not doing that anymore. And so being vulnerable and saying, yeah, this bad stuff happened to me. I made these terrible choices. I had horrific health problems that I had to deal with. And a lot of those probably stemmed from being an empath. You know, you get very sick as an empath because you take in all that energy, and stress causes illness.
Yes.
And so when you take on other people's stress and anxiety and all of this, it causes illness. And, you know, I grew up very sick. I had lots of surgeries. I had lots of health issues. And looking back, I wonder if I could have healed those just from my positive energetic stance. And I'm actually working on a lot of that now. It's been a while. I've been very healthy and I'm learning how to do that. But anyway, back to being vulnerable, I think that it gave me such strength to finally come out and admit what I had gone through. I had severe postpartum depression, and I've had depression and anxiety throughout my whole life. I think it's just, again, genetic, chemical. But I never wanted to admit I had depression. I'd go to the counselor or the psych and they'd say, okay, you have depression and anxiety. And I'm like, nope, I just have anxiety. I can live with having anxiety. I can admit that I have anxiety, but I don't want to admit that I have depression because that sounds so weak and I don't want to be weak. So, you know what? I've just learned that admitting all of this and saying, yeah, it's been hard and I did have depression and these issues has become such a strength, and I'm growing from it. I'm becoming more powerful. And I think in being able to admit your mistakes and your faults, you grow, you learn more, you have more wisdom through those things. And so, yes, vulnerability is powerful.
And I mean, it really, what this paragraph made me think about is how all that you learned really gave you such a great purpose. You know, it really sounds like it defined more of your, I love when you said, we are intuitive and powerful. We can be amazing leaders, teachers, and healers when positively charged. You know, and to me, that's like the operative phrase, when positively charged. Yes, when you are positively charged as the empath, like you described earlier, absorbing energy. It's what makes you great is knowing to choose the energy you're going to absorb, because without having a knowledge of that, you take everything on and then you can't really step into your power of leader, teacher, or healer. So you have to really know who you are first, which is what you've done. And then you've, turn that into a way to serve the universe. I love when you said we're soldiers for the spirit world who thrive on doing good things. So to close this out, what do you feel like, what contribution are you making right now that really fulfills you?
So one thing that I thought of when you brought that up is it's not just knowing who you are, because I think a lot of people deep down know who they are as a person in this world. I think when you accept who you are and can just openly be yourself, that's when the big difference comes. And being that powerful leader, teacher, I could still be hiding. And here I am, I'm going to be on social media admitting this is who I am. I haven't wanted to do this before. I was still hiding these abilities and who I was. And now I'm saying, no, because you know what? This is how you change the world. This is how you do good things. If I'm going to hide and not show who I am, I can't make those huge changes that I want to make in the world. And so I have to accept that this is who I am and this is my journey. And this is I think, my purpose in life. I am a teacher. It's my career. I've been doing it. I was probably 18 because I started off teaching massage and then became a real public school teacher, but I am a teacher. And I know I'm a healer. I used to do the massage therapy and heal people. And that's where I felt so good about myself, is when I was able to heal people and make them feel better. And so, yeah, these are all talents and things that I feel drawn to, and I feel like I have my power. And the thing I need to remember is, like I said, positively charged. So if I'm going to go out there and help masses of people, which I would love to do, I've got to keep those boundaries up and make sure that I can block out those negative energies and say, you know what, I'm only going to work with the people who can be positive, uplifting, and that I can help, you know, that positive energy. And I'm not going to take on people with ego and evil spirits.
Yep.
I'm not doing it. I just have to, I don't know.
No,
I hate blocking people. I hate blocking people because I want to love everybody.
Right. I know.
Love everybody. And I do want to heal people who have problems and issues. But if they're angry and mean and they put that on me, I have to get rid of that. I have to have my boundaries.
Yep. And you know, sometimes it's not even something that you can define, that you don't know what it is about a person, except that, so sometimes it isn't an apparent anger that they have. I don't know if you've really noticed this too, but it's more that just something about that other person's energy is sort of calculating in your sort of energy field, not as positive, or not, you know. And so I love what you share about boundaries. I think that's so important, and it's what will help you and all of us who are empaths be successful. All right, I want to close off with one more question. It's a bonus question. Are you ready?
Probably not.
Are you a Voyager? What is a Voyager, and are you a Voyager?
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. I'm a Voyager because I love traveling. I love learning. A Voyager, I think that they love the journey and not just the destination, you know.
Yes.
And so now I'm at a point, I really love living life. Whereas there were times I didn't want to be here. I'm loving living life. I'm loving this journey and this voyage and learning more about the spiritual world. There's so much out there that we still don't know. There's so much knowledge to gain and to learn from what we have available to us out there, and just continue learning, tapping into it, keep traveling, keep voyaging, keep having fun. Yeah, I'm a Voyager.
I would say that's a definite hell yes. Well, I want to thank you so much for what you shared about your story. I know that people who see this interview but don't have the book in their hands yet will be very anxious to read your story, because it's very powerful. And I just want to thank you for sharing your gold, your wisdom with us today. And we look forward to hearing more in the future.
And I just really hope that, no, I'm not going to say hope. I know that this is going to help a lot of people and a lot of parents with empathic children. And that's important to me.
Definitely.
And those will be the people who will come and read it. And I look forward to all of us being able to help other people and make this world a better place.
Definitely. Thank you, my friend. Over and out.